All right, so Derek over here, and today I'm going to explain to you how to, when you're playing piano, you play with your fingers versus play with your whole hand, right? Sometimes we play with our fingers, sometimes we play with our whole hand. That's the difference. Now, to begin explaining this, I'm going to use a metaphor, right, which I got from this book right here. You can see it. And so the metaphor is this, right? And we don't need keys. Right, I got keys down here. We don't need keys to play out this metaphor, and in fact, we should do it on a flat surface first. And so what I'm going to do is come right over here, use my copy of Plato's Republic. Right, so I have my hand sitting down like I would on the piano, right? And you see my fingers are curved. You know, what you want is to make a ball with your fist, open your fist as though a ball would fit in there, and then that's how you want to set your hand down on the keys in a neutral position. Okay? Now here's the metaphor, right? I said we're going to have a metaphor. And the metaphor is that our hand is like a goofy person with 5 legs walking around, right? Because it's very important to think about the relation between playing piano and how we walk, right? When we play piano, we all know there's a bunch of thuds, right? We hit really hard, right? That's the easy part to comprehend. But this metaphor, what happens is it provides us with one of the missing ingredients, which is that we play with a finger and we play with another finger, but what happens is we shift the weight every time we play with a new finger. Just like when we walk around, we shift our weight every time we take a step, right? So when you play, you're supporting your hand, at least partially, with the finger. You're putting your weight on the finger. Then when I play with my ring finger in a moment here, now it's my ring finger that's supporting my hand. Now the middle finger, right? So that's the metaphor. Our hand is like a goofy person with 5 legs, and we're taking a bunch of steps. Now here's where the distinction comes in, right? Because we're talking about when do we play with our fingers or when do we play with our whole hand? And so here's the way that I put it. We play with our whole hand when we don't already have a finger on the ground, right? So when I go to begin, I play with my whole hand, and then I use my fingers, right? So when we aren't already holding a key down, now keep in mind, by the way, it'll help to refer to the keys here for a moment. A foot on the ground is not in default right here. A foot on the ground is when a key has been, a foot on the ground is when a key has been pressed. Right now I have a foot on the ground. Right now I have no feet on the ground. So when I begin playing, I'm going to play with my whole hand, and then I can use my fingers after that, and then when I finish playing, I'm going to leave with my whole hand, right? So I just wanted to explain that so that you understand that the ground is down below the plane of the key. That being said, I still want you to practice on your flat surface. We have our Plato's Republic over here, very handy. And so I want you to kind of pick your hand up. Now when you pick it up, you imagine a string tied to the wrist, right? It's like you're picking it up. Let me get a better view here. Right? You got your string tied to the wrist. You're picking it up from the wrist like that. That's how to pick up your hand. When you go to begin, we're going to begin with the thumb. You want to use your whole thumb. Right? You see I'm not moving my thumb? Right? You see I'm playing with my thumb? You see I'm using my hand to play with my thumb? You see the difference? Playing with the thumb, playing with the hand. So when we begin, we have our hand here. We want to pick it up a little bit. We want to play with our whole hand to begin, and then we use our fingers like that, right? And then when we're done, we release again. Right? This is called a hand release. Okay? So here's maybe a simple way that you can get into it, right? You want to begin with your whole thumb, and we'll just go up to the pinky, and then you leave with your whole hand. So whole hand, fingers, whole hand, right? That's the way it has to be, right? You might try, your thumb and your ring finger, right? Just a 2-note phrase. Thumb, ring finger, in, out. Thumb, ring finger. It happens. That's how to do a 2-note phrase. Okay? So that's playing with your fingers and your hand on a flat surface, right? So let me make a comment here about releasing the hand really quick. Right. So when you release the hand, what happens is you want your hand to come up, but it goes up at like an angle, and you come back and do like a circle, and you have like a cycle going on, right? It's like a circle right in here, right? So take a look back over here at the keys. Let's get some keys going here. And I might even be able to set this up a little bit more conveniently. So you see when I go to play, I do my hand release, and I come back down. So you see I come over here, it's over there. I'm way overdoing it. I'm way overdoing the cycle, but I'm trying to emphasize that there is a cyclical motion. So we can get a better view if we do a move like this here. Right. Still see my hand there? Yeah. So you see how I move to the side, I move back over there, right? So the point of this is, to make it regular, to make it consistent. Right? We want everything to be as easy as possible, and we have the most control over how we begin a note if we begin with our whole hand. Right? We want to come in here as though it's like a moon jump, right? Because your first instinct is going to be, when you're playing with your whole hand, you're going to do it too hard. You're gonna like hit it really hard like that, right? And certainly the way to play really loudly is to play with your whole hand, right? But you can use your whole hand and play softly as well, right? So the way I distinguish it is between doing a jump on the earth, like that, right? And doing a moon jump, right? So you see I come in with my whole hand, and it's nice and quiet, right? And I'm talking especially about the first note, right? Because you really want to get used to sounding your first notes pretty quietly, pretty softly. You want to get used to it. You shouldn't always do it, but it's sort of a typical way that first notes are performed. So hand releases apply mostly to, anything. I'm kind of crowded in here. So, like if you're playing a scale, right? Like let's take the scale right here. I'm going to go with something like this. You can just take a watch. Right. Right. Now you see how I'm kind of doing a hand release, but I'm not going to completely release my finger from the key. That's another technique, right? Right. Because remember, the hand release thing has to do with the string being tied to the wrist, right? So I can hit a key and get quite a lot of a hand release and not even remove my hand completely from the key, right? Because the fingers, when you do a hand release, the fingers are the last thing to be removed from the keys, right? Your fingers should be like, you don't want them to be tense at all, but they should be stragglers. They should be hanging back there, just a little bit. So what else might I say about this? Let me get this camera going again here. So that's pretty much the difference, right, between playing with your fingers and playing with your entire hand. It's very important to consider. People don't really do it deliberately. Right? It's just sort of a haphazard thing. Right? And so another tip I might give real quick is, you'll really get the sense of the difference between the two options if you play, for instance, repeated notes, right? Like, I'm gonna hit a D with my second finger here. Right? You see, I'm just wagging it with my finger, right? Just playing with my finger. Right? I can kind of do it, but really the way that you want to do it is with your whole hand. Right? You want to play repeated notes with your whole hand, not with your finger. Same thing with chords, right? 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 So when I play these chords, like these chords are being played with my whole hands, right? it's not exactly clear how you would play a chord just with your fingers, right? But you play chords with your entire hand. You got to make sure that when you release the chord, you do a hand release, right? So that goes for, even if you're doing a bunch of them like that, you know, I've heard the hand compared to a rake. You know, you want to rake it up. Your hand's like the end of a rake. And the motion that you want comes from the elbow, right? You want to pick up from the elbow here, like that. You see my high wrist, even if, like, can you see my right hand has a pretty high wrist, right? You see something like that, right? You see the high wrists? That's what I'm showing you right here. You do it from the elbow, but make sure, you can't really see very well because I'm wearing, make sure, can you see me sticking my elbow out? Make sure that your elbow doesn't come stuck out like this. It's not working. You see me stick my elbow out there, the right elbow? Right? You see that? That's bad. Avoid that at all costs. So this has pretty much been the video. You know, play with your fingers, play with your hands, do the right thing at the right time. You shouldn't always do one or the other. I guess the other thing that I'd mention is you might try, you know, contrasting staccato with legato, right? So legato, right, you see, you begin with your whole hand and then it's all fingers, right? And then we have staccato, right? Which you want to play as though they are repeated notes, like I was saying earlier. You want to play staccato with your whole hand, right? And then eventually what happens is, you know, you'll have your phrases, and you pretty much, this is just a general statement for, you know, beginners, but you pretty much, you approach a phrase with your whole hand, and you leave a phrase with your whole hand, right? So you approach with the whole hand, and you leave with the whole hand. And in the meantime, you play with your fingers. This goes for arpeggios, right? 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 You know, whatever arpeggio you want to do. Here's one over here. Right? So we approach with the whole hand. We leave with the whole hand. Hopefully that made sense. Let me know if you have any specific questions, because I may be able to answer them. You know, I'm not the greatest piano player in the world, but I just felt like I needed to get this out there because at least I am competent to explain this. Thank you.